Hi everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Guitar Souls podcast. This is episode 14. I am Levi Clay and I am here joined by my rosy-cheeked friend, Mike McLaughlin. How's it going, man?
The best K-Mac impersonator you've ever seen. I'm good, man. Thank you. How are you?
I mean, you say that. I put up a meme video this week and people are calling me Claymac. So.
Really? Yeah. I missed that. That's fucking good.
Yeah, so
Clay Machiavellian.
I can live with that one. I can live. So yeah, I'm good.
The educational machete.
So memes are a good thing apparently, but then I put up that meme video on my YouTube channel and it lost me subscribers. So apparently my very serious YouTube audience aren't into, you know, having fun or a laugh.
And if those of the people who unsubscribed somehow end up watching this, get up ye! Or
get
listening.
it right round yees.
That's it.
Yeah, cool. So we have well, it's definitely a very cool show today. We've pre-recorded something. We have an interview coming up at the end of the show with the one, the only, the legend of shred guitar, Mr. Rusty Cooley.
And it's a fucking good interview.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah, definitely.
I think people are going to enjoy that. And we brought him on the album club. So Rusty has an album to recommend, and it's not what you'd expect.
Absolutely not. It's going to be a fucking nailer.
Yeah. So yeah, we will come to that. Don't worry. We're
All
also
in good time, our friends.
going to talk about George Benson. This is a while ago now. George Benson doing a concert and not being able to sing, and the audience actually booing him and leaving. And you know whether that's acceptable and the ethics of that. There's obviously two sides to every story. We're also going to talk about this. I mean, this show is basically the Guitar Souls podcast is basically one of two things. It's the Gibson bashing show, and it's the patting Misha Mansour on the back show.
Yeah.
So once again, we're going to talk about Misha.
Quite a lot of catch up as well.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, let's give Jake Bowen his credit as well. He's involved.
Yeah, well, it's just all of the guys in Periphery. Like they are bastions of forging careers for yourself in the industry.
Yes.
In this day and age. So you can learn a lot from those guys. So yeah, more love going their way.
Obviously, Misha, if you're listening, and the rest of the guys, just come on, please.
Yeah, come on. We just done an interview with Rusty Cooley. So if anyone out there is good friends with any of those guys, let them know. We'd love to talk to them.
Tag us in.
If any of our 12 listeners are friends with them. And on that note, if you are listening, please do hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends. We've been doing this for like 14 shows now, and we're not megastars yet, and I find this hard to cope with. So
I can't even get my Bentley gold plated.
Outrageous.
It's just fucking unpalatable.
Absolutely outrageous. I had to fire the help this week because we just can't afford to keep her on. It's just terrible.
I'm down to 5 cleaners.
Just, mate.
How do I get all 13 bedrooms sparkling if I don't have 6 cleaners?
Yeah, so on with the show.
Sorry.
This is going back a bit now. This is at the end of June.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had like a month off, so we didn't get to talk about it and then forgot about it on last week's episode. But I was scrolling through all of our notes and I saw this. And yeah, I wanted to talk about this because... So the story is George Benson did a show at the Royal Albert Hall. Cool. When George Benson plays London, obviously this is a big event. He's one of the big daddies of jazz guitar.
It was a household name if fucking ITV are going to announce it.
But therein lies the problem. He's a household name because he also had that pop era of his career where he did pop songs and he was singing. But he's always still been, you know, the jazz guy.
Oh, definitely.
Last time I saw him play in London, I didn't go and see him play in London, but I saw that he was playing in London. He was playing at Ronnie Scott's, which is, you know, one of the most prestigious jazz clubs in the world. And I think tickets for that were like £250 or something like that. Jesus. And it sold out almost immediately. So, you know, he's immensely popular on that scene. And yeah, he did a gig at the Royal Albert Hall, which is a big venue. A bunch of my friends went down to see it, and I started hearing rumours on Facebook that something odd happened at the gig. So I've got a story up here on ITV News. Let's just read through it. So, what do you do if you've paid to see a singer who isn't able to sing? Boo, heckle, or just sit back and enjoy the instrumentals? That was the dilemma hundreds of concert goers faced on Wednesday night after musician George Benson went ahead with his gig at the Royal Albert Hall despite losing his voice. Fans were treated to instrumental versions of his and other artists' songs, but this approach clearly divided opinion. Hundreds left early, and boos, whistles and shouting matches in the audience dampened what could have been an electric night. Steve Anderson told ITV News he was mildly amused by the tit-for-tat in the audience, but said he understood that many fans felt that they were being used. He came on stage slightly late and opened up with a famous track called Breezin'. which is an instrumental, and then he followed this with another instrumental and another instrumental, and then he changed. What was he saying there?
Changed his microphone.
Changed his microphone.
Yeah.
Why would you change your microphone if you've not used it at that point? His voice was clearly in terrible shape. It was after another instrumental and the admission to the crowd that his voice was really bad, quote, that people started to get restless. Mr. Anderson said. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Boring." People were shouting at the people who were shouting at him. After one person got up to leave, many followed suit. More people stayed, and a lot of people did leave. Hundreds were leaving, said Steve Anderson.
Steve Anderson sounds like Donald Trump. More people stayed, but a lot of people did leave. Hundreds were leaving.
This is fake news.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got some quotes from people that were actually at the show that I'll bring up when we're getting your opinions. So people would come from all over the country, booked hotels in London, got dressed up for a special occasion. He said, bad feeling could have been avoided if he'd been clear with people from the start. All right, let's leave it there. So no, that the bad feeling couldn't have been avoided. Like, his voice was shot. He didn't know that in advance. That's what he found out on the day, and I'm sure he wanted to get up and sing and do all of those things. But if he'd got up at the very start of the gig and said, "Look, guys, I'm really sorry. My voice is absolutely shot. I'm not going to be able to sing tonight. Concert's off," there would have been riots. Because people have still paid for the hotels. They've still done all of the travelling. Like, it's just... What do you think? I
mean, I think what kind of gets me is the fact that right away they started off as saying, how do you feel about going to see a singer who's lost his voice? George Benson isn't just a singer, as well you mentioned yourself. And I think it's... I see it from both sides. I do understand people being upset about potentially thinking it was going to be an all-singing gig and people being there for his pop career and pop era, and to see him perform on guitar as well as sing. But to then get a couple of songs and then basically for him to say, "Listen, I'm really sorry, my voice is fucked." So I know what you're saying, like with the riots and people being pissed off, but I think the crowd would have been more receptive. Mm-hmm. Generally, they probably wouldn't have been happy, but they'd been more receptive to an instrumental set had they had that prior information, even the start of the gig.
Yep. No, fair. Like, it might not have been dealt with the best way, but the thing that fascinated me is that it's made reference in that story a couple of times. The tit for tat. There were people heckling George, and then other people shouting at the people that were heckling George, and then shouting matches were going on between people in the audience, which is just, I can't get my head around what sort of level of animal you need to be to think that's acceptable.
It's fucking chaos, isn't it? Really.
So why don't I give you some first-hand information from this one. This is from an old friend of mine, Easel Candola McNicholas. He's actually got some great music out, so I don't know if it's actually online anymore, but he's a talented young man. So I asked him what went on because he was at the gig, and he said, "Hey man, so pretty much what happened was George came out on stage and started playing a bunch of stuff from Breezing, which is automatically a sign that something was up with his voice. He then announced that he was having trouble with his voice and would play a few more instrumental numbers. But since it was at the Albert Hall, his main demographic there would most likely have been fans of his vocal and pop career. So he had a go at singing a few songs. He was really struggling to hit the anything high, and his voice was super fried. Really couldn't access his upper register. So he started playing a solo guitar piece, which was beautiful. This was a magical moment, which really drew me in. And then some asshole started booing at the top of his lungs and just completely killed the atmosphere. The crowd told him to shut up, and he just kept on going. Finally, he was kicked out, but shortly after that, George left the stage and it was announced that he wouldn't continue the show. It was so shocking to see a legend like George Benson get booed. Fucking hecklers, man. And I said, nuts, man. I've been looking at some of the complaints on Twitter. He's not just a singer, he's a guy that plays guitar. And Easel came back with, I know it's ridiculous, but that's literally the case with most people. So they were confused and they just expected disco hits. I spoke to a few other people and they all said the same thing as me. Like, to me, that would be the dream Benson gig.
Yeah, for anyone that's into guitar, definitely, 100%.
So it's totally a shame.
It is, especially considering it seems like, laughing and joking, calling it fake news, ITV have reported it along the lines of it being crowds of people heckling, whereas your friend who was at the gig has said, no, one person was an asshole, people called that person out of being an asshole, that person continued to be an asshole and was then ejected. Not to say other people wouldn't have been doing the same and left, but it's not the way it's reported. It's more like almost half and half the crowd, like almost like a division of the room, like
a wall of death.
Yeah,
at a Benson gig.
a wall of opinion. Boo! Shut up! No, you shut up! I don't know. It's a shame for, especially if he's went off stage having been booed, and
that's the thing. It's clearly knocked him, hasn't it?
Oh, a man of that stature,
because he could have played a belter of a set. Like, Easel really put a nice spin on that there. He started playing a solo guitar piece, and it was really like a breath of fresh air, and it really, I connected with it, and it felt great. And to have someone just come in and ruin that, like, what a piece of shit.
Shoot over the top it. Yeah. So if that person is listening, go fuck yourself.
He's probably not, though, because clearly he doesn't want to hear good guitar playing, so he probably doesn't want to hear even better opinions about guitar playing.
Probably doesn't appreciate music in general. Not to say that going to see George Benson play the pop stuff and the disco hits isn't appreciating music, but not appreciating the fact that he is, exactly as you say, a living legend.
Yeah.
So fuck you, guy. Go George.
Yeah. Do you think this is ultimately acceptable, though? Like, what if you found yourself... What's really the line when a band should cancel a show? Like, I'll throw a couple of examples in. One, a well-known one. Slipknot at Download 2004 was the one where... Metallica at Download 2004 was where Lars was ill. So Joey Jordison stepped in on drums, and obviously didn't know any of the St. Angus stuff, so they just played, old Metallica stuff, which was cool.
The best result for anyone going to see Metallica that day.
Yeah. Except
the idiots that really like St. Anger.
I like the fact that I've seen Metallica once, but I've never had to see Lars play. That's
You're a lucky man.
I know.
I've never seen Metallica.
Yeah.
Not that I'm really that bothered.
Yeah, I don't really think you're missing much now.
Nah, I might have been when I was 14, but nowadays, not so much.
Yeah. What other? I had another example that was in my head, and it's disappeared.
The great example you gave was Periphery.
Yeah, I was going to come on to that, but I guess we can move straight into that.
Sorry.
No, let's not. Like, what is the line? When is it no longer acceptable for a band to call off a show? When should they just do their best and get on with it? Your bass player's ill. Do you cancel the show?
Meatloaf's a good one for that, actually. Meatloaf's famous for going basically off stage, fainting and coming back on.
He's actually a great example of someone else I was going to talk about, because he's in the process of playing with the idea of doing a Meatloaf reunion tour and not singing on it. He's thinking of having some American Idol winner do the singing, and he just kind of talk between songs. Okay. I mean, he's lost his singing ability. So,
since when?
I don't know, 20 years ago.
Ooh, deep burn.
When he was eating all the pies, or all the meatloaf, as it were.
You leave that man alone.
Yeah, I know, I'm a big boy. I shouldn't be making fun of him. But yeah, I do find it very, very interesting. Like, where is the line for me? I can't. If I go out of my way to go to see a show, get all the way to the venue, and the worst has happened. I've remembered what the other example was. I'll bring it up in a second. But if the worst has happened, what does it take for me to prefer for the event to be cancelled?
For you, I don't know. You need to tell us.
What about you?
For me, I think it would really depend on who it is, the venue, the circumstances, and more importantly, how that person handled it, which I think is where the problem maybe lies with the George Benson scenario. I think if George had announced, even at the start of the gig, and I'm sticking to my guns with this one, even the start of the gig, people would have been much more receptive towards it. And sure enough, that there's always going to be people unhappy with that kind of scenario. It's just, that's how it is. But you need to give people that option. Do you know what I mean? Like, to at least give them that information, let them know. Here's basically what's happening. You've got the context of how the show's going to go down. If you want to be here, brilliant. If you don't and you're unhappy, I'm sorry. Because it wouldn't surprise me if at the start of that had been the case and people had made the complaint in a valid sense. Some of them probably would have got refunds, because you're not getting to see the show that you were promised.
Yep.
And then the people who really want to see the guitar stuff could have stayed and enjoyed a fucking incredible one-off night. And then the people who wanted all the pop shit, not shit, but the pop music, and I don't mean that in a derogatory term, and disco style, then they could have had that maybe another time, or they could have the refund.
Yep.
Obviously they're going to be out of pocket, they're going to be unhappy, but it's certainly better than the full gig being ruined for everyone because of stray hecklers who don't understand social etiquette. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that is down to partially George and his team in the way they handled it. If it has been that he's a few songs in before he even mentions, by the way, my vocals are fucked.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right there. Like, it is odd that it wasn't mentioned right at the start, because he knew, the band knew. They will have been stressed about that beforehand. The other example I had was one of the last interviews that I did for Guitar Interactive magazine, or was supposed to do for Guitar Interactive magazine, was Joe Bonamassa. And I went down to Hammersmith Apollo, I think, and hung around for hours, as you always do when you're having to interview someone, waiting for the slot, waiting for them to have some time. Despite the fact that you've got a time booked, just it never pans out. Anyway,
rockstar lifestyle, bro.
Yeah, long story short, the interview didn't happen, and I just got to see Joe briefly for about 10 seconds as he walked past me and didn't want to really say a word because he was losing his voice. He just said, "I'm really sorry, guys, I'm losing my voice. I have to cancel all interviews today." He was like, "At this stage, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do the gig." And that I get the stress that must put a musician in. I don't think that there's been any malice on George's part. It's one of those situations.
No, of course not.
What the hell do I do? How do I deal with this?
Definitely.
You just like to think your fans will be a bit more understanding.
Definitely. I totally agree with what you're saying there as well. Like, it's not an act of deception. It's not malice. There's no badness in it. He hasn't done that to intentionally fuck people over, is the way that's been worded. Some fucking idiots left a comment saying that, taken for a ride or whatever. This is like an older gentleman as well. I mean, he's 70s?
Benson?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how old George is. He carries it well because he's got a lot of facial surgery. Let's have a look.
Well, either way, right? Like, to get to see him as
he's 75.
Is an incredible fucking feat as it is, right? But it's just so offensive to be heckling somebody with such a long career like that over something he can't control. It's just so fucking horrible.
Yeah. And to get tweets like this, paid good money to see George Benson, including train fares and a few slurps in town to see him play guitar only because he lost his voice, left after 3 numbers. Pathetic. It's gone. Pathetic. He shouldn't have gone on stage. Sorry, but this was an amateur band. Like, what are you talking? This was a world-class band. I don't even need to have heard it to, like, that was a world-class band that played with him. Because
George Benson was there.
Yeah, doesn't go out with amateurs. Left after 3 numbers. Pathetic. Like, here's your prime example. He shouldn't have gone on stage. Oh, but you've already moaned about the fact that you've paid for train fares and a few drinks in town.
Was that George's fault that you went and bought drinks,
Yeah.
Sound.
Yeah, it's just it's a shame. But let's go on to a more positive example. So the reason I thought this would be a fun one to talk about is because I saw on YouTube a month or so ago, I don't know how old the show was, but Periphery were out on tour somewhere in Asia, I think, and Spencer had issues with his voice and was unable to sing. So it was Jake, I believe. Jake came out on stage and, said, "Guys, got some bad news. Like, Spencer's voice is shot. He's not going to be able to perform tonight." So we've kind of got 2 options. We can either cancel the show and we can come back another time and make it up to you, and we obviously will do that for you. Or what we could do is we can play an instrumental set for you guys tonight, but you'll have to promise that if we do an instrumental set, you guys are going to have to sing every single word to the loudest of your capabilities. We want it to feel like Spencer's still here singing, which I think is brilliant, and the audience was super, super up for it.
I can't think of anyone I would go to see live that if that was the options, you wouldn't go, "Well, fuck it, let's have a good night."
Yeah.
That'll be great. It's electric when you get people singing along with songs while the singer's singing, never mind you basically being the front man of a band.
Yeah.
Along with thousands of people who you can probably safely say are friends because they're all here for one reason. That's cool as fuck.
Yeah, so anyone that's interested in that the whole show is on YouTube. So go and take a look at that and see what real fans look like. That's what real fans look like.
Yeah,
there's nothing getting in the way of us and the music here. Like, real fans with this Benson situation should have been sat there going, "You know what? This isn't what I expected, but what I'm getting instead is something completely unique, something that no one has ever seen before." But I don't think these people understand that type of thing. So
that's a shame they might not have that context to understand it, but that's their loss.
Yeah,
pricks.
So should we move on to talking more about Periphery with the Misha Mansour, the the Periphery Appreciation Show?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's take our annual, not annual,
Monthly?
pretty much weekly, really, like fucking episodely.
We always have a lot of good things to say about these guys.
Yep.
So, yeah, we did it. We talked about them on the show a while back because they left their record label. Sumerian Records was where they were? Correct. Yeah. And the guy at Sumerian Records released a public statement and he seemed like a bit of a dick. Seemed like a jilted ex-lover kind of thing. Like, no, I didn't. No. They didn't break up with me. I booted them, kind of thing. They've got no idea how the industry works.
Of course they don't.
Yeah.
That's why they're so big.
Yeah.
That's it. Well done. So, in light of that, as far as I know, it's just Misha and Jake that have opened 3 Dot Studios, 3 Dot Recordings. The rest of the band might well be involved, but
it's always hard to tell.
Yeah, they seem to be the face of it, at least, because the first single that's been released as a showcase of their tracking abilities is a track called Fade Away, and the project's called 4 Seconds Ago, and that is Misha and Jake together. We've listened to a little bit and it's pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah, this was kind of what I'd expect. So this is 3 Dot Recordings. Let's read their about page just to give people an idea of what they're about. Because as we said back when we talked about Periphery leaving Sumerian Records, there was not a shadow of doubt in our minds that, well, one, they were going to start their own record label. Like, they weren't going to go off to someone else and have someone else take a huge chunk of their earnings.
Nope.
And two, that whatever they did, they'd be successful with it.
Definitely.
So on their about page, we have, we are excited to finally realise a dream that we have had for a while now. With a strong vision we all share. The fact that he says we all share, I think they're probably all involved.
Yeah, I would think so.
It makes sense to extend that to the label side of things so that we can have a vehicle that is perfectly set up for our releases. In addition to that, this gives us an opportunity to curate and nurture outside musical projects and bands that we truly love. 3 Dot is a passion project first and foremost, and as a result, we can focus on genuinely supporting the bands we work with. Throwing a bit of shade there. Thereby using our love of music as our driving force.
I wonder if that has then got anything to do with Nolly leaving, because Nolly obviously does his own recordings and such.
Nah, I think nah. Total speculation, but nah.
I don't mean like he was forced
out
out or anything.
I believe he left because he didn't want to be on the road.
No,
that life just isn't for everyone.
Definitely, especially not if you have a studio to run. But I think there's got to be some correlation. You don't think so?
No, honestly, I don't. You could be right, but I think, no. I think if anything, this will be good for Nolly because I think this sets Periphery in this great place where they can be a record label, and when they find a great band that they want to put out on the label and they need to get that band recorded to a high standard, who are they going to turn to? Sure, Misha can record you, but Misha's a very busy man doing lots and lots of things that we'll come on to. Nolly he's world class. He is world class at what he does, which is just such an odd thing to say because he's just a guitar player that does his thing and happens to do a bit of recording, but he is world class at that thing.
He's just got the ear and the knowledge.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that this turns out really well for Misha, and again it's just one more. It's a double-sided thing. It's not just that I hope this pans out really well for Misha. The hope is also that this is going to be a great avenue for new up-and-coming musicians to find their foot in the industry, where more traditional labels aren't willing to touch them. The guys over at Periphery, 3 Dot Recordings, might be a little bit more willing to take a punt.
Yeah, I think this is almost like a professional side to the DIY ethic. It's like, well, why the fuck are we letting other people do it? We can just do it ourselves. But it's in a much more, rather than it being like sketchy, putting on gigs in like practice rooms and we'll just find a PA from somewhere and use a shitty backline. These guys are like, well, we've lived it all. We have the resources to hand. Why not do it right, but just do it ourselves? Yeah. Which is cool. Best of luck.
Yeah, I hope that pans out for them. So on to the last bit of Periphery news, Misha news, and again, just highlighting that multiple avenues of revenue. Horizon Devices,
Apex,
the company that released the extremely popular Precision Drive have just announced and put up the pre-orders for the Apex preamp,
which looks phenomenal. The only video I saw so far with them being demoed was the Ola England one.
Yep.
But then again, Ola England could make anything sound good. That's not to say it doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
Just that guy's also phenomenal at what he does.
Hands up, I've pre-ordered one.
Of course he has.
Can't wait for it to show up. Yeah. Well, the reason I wanted to say I've pre-ordered one is because it's not out of the realm of possibility to talk to the right person to get one eventually for review, you know? But this isn't something that I wanted to wait for. It sounds that good, and I'm really looking forward to playing with it. I'm hoping that it's, I'm going to be able to use it with my Fender and get a good modern metal tone when I'm writing in the room, and not having to deal with the Kemper and all of that. Not that I mind the Kemper, but also just being able to use it as, I was going to say a DI box, but it's not. It's like it is a preamp slash DI.
And the thought of everything as well, though. The thought of everything as well, though.
Yeah.
Cabinet emulation on and off.
Bingo. So yeah, cabinet emulation, blending where the microphone sits in that emulation. I think it's got a lot of options on it, and $300. It's pricey, but not. I would urge anyone watching this to go check it out, and if it looks appealing to you, check it out on their website, because they're doing a limited run release. The first release, they're only making 500 in the first run, and I think I remember them saying the price will go up after the initial run as well, up to 350.
It isn't a lot to go, but you want to be an early supporter if you can.
Bingo. As soon as those pre-orders went up, I got one, because I just wanted to support a good company. I think they're I spoke to a few guys that work for the company, and it's the same thing. Like, it's not just Misha and the guys doing their thing to make themselves money. They're also creating jobs for people, which just in my books makes them heroes. Like, it's hard to make a living in this industry. So if you're not only successful enough to go out and do that, make money for yourself, have a career, support your family, but also help other families support themselves, then legends. So my hat's already off. Hats off to you, Misha. Hats off to you guys. You keep up the great work.
Very much so.
So should we go on to Rusty Cooley?
Let's do it.
Right, so let's cut away to our Rusty Cooley interview now. Jazz
Magic hands.
Yeah, this is, I'll do an introduction on that. Ready for the clap? Go. So that was an effective cut, wasn't it? I may have even changed t-shirt. Well, I actually definitely haven't. This is for some reason we're recording this before we do the actual podcast.
No, it's the same time. It's just a cut.
It's exactly the same time. Totally the same time. So yeah, this is the Guitar Soul's first live interview with someone on the show. We have a legend of the shred guitar scene today, an actual someone that I was watching back in the Chops from Hell days when I was 13, 14.
Great.
Yeah, putting in all the time to get those licks together. You all know this man. He is, I say it again, a legend of the shred guitar scene, a pioneer of modern technique, and one of the big influences on all of the modern young shred players. Mr. Rusty Cooley, say hello, my friend.
Hey guys, what's going on, man? And thank you for the kind words. That's cool, man. Chops from Hell all the way back in the day.
That is really, really back in the day. Time just absolutely flies. I remember picking up your album when it came out, when it first came out, and thinking to myself, I'm going to learn some of this, and then immediately go, no, I'm not. This is not a good idea. And why not talk about me? I loved that record, but when you did the Outworld record, that was when things for me really. I get the impression you're of that same vein too. You like working with a singer, you like working with playing in a band and that cool stuff. So when that Outworld record dropped, I was like, yeah, let's take Rusty super seriously. Anyway, let's not talk about me. So
no, that's cool though, man, because it was the instrumental album was just me taking a break from playing in bands, and it just so happened to coincide with when the internet took off and all that stuff. So that was the first thing anybody outside of Houston got to know me as an instrumental guitar player, which was never. It was just like a breather, tired of all the local BS and stuff like that. And it just kind of took off from there, and it was great. But once that instrumental album was over, I never intended to do another one or anything like that. It was like, okay, now let's get this band going and get out there and do it,
And you've been a band guy ever since. which is
Yes, sir.
yeah, cool.
However,
Go on.
there is some instrumental EP in the works.
Awesome.
Yes, good.
Yeah. So it's I don't want to say any kind of like release date, but it's or anything like that, because I've got so much material just laying around.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because I write so much, and it's like, you know, one of the drawbacks of being in the band is we don't always get together and rehearse on a regular basis. And rehearsing, it's usually to rehearse for a gig, and it's not writing new stuff, it's practicing old stuff. And it's like, I just feel like I'm getting nowhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, it's time to do something with all this stuff that's just been sitting around.
Yeah.
You know, so I've been cataloging it and organizing it, going through it, and starting to demo some stuff. And I want to do like an EP, and then just kind of follow it up with singles, you know, because it's, you know, the way people buy stuff today in short attention span theater, it's just like, just keep putting out singles, man. At the end of the year, you pile them all into an album, and then if you want to buy them all at once, you can, or you can do what everybody else does and buy one at a time.
Yeah.
You know, so why stress and work like a year or two on writing an album when you can just like keep chunking them out and you get everybody's attention the whole time?
Yep.
Totally. I think EPs are the next way forward past singles. I think albums are almost a dead format. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, streaming. Destroying everything for
and
everyone.
That's you know what Day of Reckoning is about to release, the second EP.
Brilliant.
That should be like out. It's anytime, you know.
So that's,
but it probably another month or two.
Mm-hmm.
But you know how that stuff goes.
Yeah, that's actually a really good segue, because we're often talking on the show about developments and changes in the music industry, and how young musicians need to change and adapt and move with the times rather than whinge about how they're not the way things are. And actually, last episode we were looking at both Devon Townsend and Mastodon. Bill Kelleher, talking about going on tour and losing money. But obviously, people can still tour and do all right. You've just finished a tour with Day of Reckoning, right? How do you feel the touring experience is changing for you?
I don't know. It's still kind of the same. It's
good.
You know, I mean, actually, it's in a weird way, it's gotten worse, but only from a personal hygiene level. You know, it's like you arrive too late to get a shower, or you check out too early to shower before you go, and then when you get to the venue, you can't shower, and it's like, oh man, it just hose me off the side. But aside from that, it's cool.
Wet wipes, man.
Doing Texas, Florida, and Louisiana at this time of year, oh man, but you know,
but
it's all worth it. I wouldn't change it for anything. You know?
It's good that people are still coming out to shows, right? Like that's my fear. There's too many people out there, the experts the armchair experts that sit there and don't buy any music, and it's like, but it's okay because bands can just make money by going on tour, and these same people don't go and see any shows either. Yep. They just watch them on YouTube.
It's pretty crazy, man, how things have changed, because I mean, when I was, you know, like you were saying earlier about 13 or 14 with the George Benson stuff, I mean, well, I hadn't even started playing guitar then. I started when I was 15, but I mean, back then there was no internet, you know. I mean, that's dating me pretty obviously, but you know, so there was, you know, you couldn't really get out there and tour and stuff like that, and it was very hard to be able to see a guy like that was on Shrapnel Records or something like that. It was almost, you know, never, you know, maybe a guitar clinic or something.
Yeah. Unless the guys had their own bands, like Paul Gilbert out with Mr. Big, Racer X, etc. Yeah,
but with Racer X, it was all LA. There was no touring, you know what I mean?
Really? I didn't know that.
I got out to about as far as Arizona.
Really?
They drove out for one show, and that was it.
That's insanity.
Yeah, they cashed. I think I read somewhere that one of them got a royalty check for $6, and they went to the Sizzler or something like that. You know, got a cheap steak. I don't know.
Yeah, some things never change apparently.
Yeah, apparently not.
So let's go right back then to those early days, the Chops from Hell thing, because I always found it really fascinating being a young guy growing up in the southeast of England. When I discovered Chops from Hell, it became apparent that there seemed to be an incredibly niche scene of high-level technical guitar players all out of Texas. How has this happened?
I don't know, man. I mean, if you just look back historically, I mean, not even necessarily in the shred era or genre, there's just great guitar players in Texas, from Billy Gibbons to Stevie Ray, Eric Johnson, to Billy White, to, you know, Johnny and Edgar Winter. Edgar's not a guitar player, but, you know, I mean, even like that, Billy Gibbons, you know, and then you got Derek Taylor and Scott Stein and Eddie Head and Brett Stein, and there's another guy up there that was a little more obscure named Brian Getty. I think he was good friends with Derek. And then there's Ron Jarzenbeck.
Yep.
Watch and all that stuff. And I'm probably forgetting a ton. Marshall Harrison's here in Houston. That I don't know, man. Must be something in the water.
Yeah. Partly so.
But it's pretty cool, really.
Yeah, but I guess the thing that interests me is back then, did you have a community with these guys? Was it a kind of a social scene? Were you all aware of each other, good friends, or did you bond later on?
I think what you're referring to is more the Texas shred thing, where it's kind of that legato and pentatonic-y, shreddy thing. That's all of those guys, Brett and Scott and Eddie and Derek. They were all. Derek was from Corsicana, and Eddie Head from Haji's Kitchen. He was out in Plano. You probably don't know where any of this stuff is, so it doesn't really do me justice. But I'm like about 4 hours away from all of those guys. You know what I mean? So, I never got to hang out with them and, anything like that. I saw Eddie and Scott come through with Haji's Kitchen to do a clinic and some stuff like that, and talked to Derek a million times. I had Derek's intense legato licks lesson that was on Chops from Hell, but it was before it was Chops from Hell.
Right, okay.
And it was a cassette and like 18 licks or something like that. And it was cool, man. I remember hearing Derek Taylor demos that he'd been sending to Mike Varney on cassette. They didn't sound like anything like what he ended up singing. You know what I mean? But you got a killer dog back there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sounds it, doesn't he?
Yeah, ferocious. So I don't know if that really answered your question or not, but those guys were definitely all in the Dallas scene.
Okay.
Together. And like Haji's Kitchen, it was Brett Stein and Eddie Head at first, and then Brett quit, and his brother Scott joined the band. And it's cool having a brother that can cover your shit.
Yeah, yeah, those guys are absolute freaks. But yeah, so I guess really what I'm taking from that, or the thing that is your legacy in that, is that kind of established you as one of the pioneer shred teachers, like the post Michelangelo 90s scene of teachers. You were the new wave of teachers at the time, and that's still something that you're very much doing a lot of, right? You're still, breaking the back, teaching, as it were. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, man. I teach at a music school out here, and then I do Skype lessons, and it's something that I will always do. You know what I mean? Even if my musical career, that end of things take off, and it takes me away from regular teaching. I do it because I love it, not because I have to. I could easily go get a more consistent day gig, but then that's a day gig. I'll take teaching guitar any day over it. There was an interesting thing, and I won't mention the guy's name. He's a real famous keyboard player that I was jamming with for a little while, and he said something that gave me an aha moment about teaching. He was like, "Man, I got to go take this blank gig this week to pay the rent." And he's talking about how he hates playing with this guy, and that's when I went, "Dude, I got it made, man. I can stay home, I can teach, do what I want, release only the music I want, play only the music I want. Don't have to do cover bands or fill-ins or go on tour with, even if it's a mega rock star, you're not into it. It's just a gig.
Yeah.
And you could be at home doing something more productive, whatever." So that was where I kind of changed my mindset on teaching. Prior to that, I always kind of looked at teaching as like something I'm going to do until I make it.
Right.
And thought it was kind of not belittling, but it made me a lesser of a, established musician or something like that, which is not, it's not the truth at all.
I would think the opposite, to be honest. I think having that influence and people knowing you for that influence and knowing you as a great teacher is a completely different scenario to just someone popping out of nowhere and playing a bit of shred. So
yeah. And
well, thank you.
And I'd say the difference between those two mentalities, of course, there are those guys out there that teach because they need to, and they hate doing it, but they just need the money.
Right.
The thing I found most interesting about you, and it was actually very recently, Jude Gold's podcast. You were on No Guitar is Safe, and it just became instantly apparent that even after all of these years, you're still fascinated with the intricacies of technique and teaching and exploring things and being able to convey that information to people. Like, for anyone listening to this that hasn't watched or listened to that podcast, it's well worth a look to see the insight, because to me you still talk about guitar like I imagine like 14-year-old boys talk about guitar, like this is just so much cooler than girls, man. But you've still got all that passion, which I found really, yeah, that's the dream. If anyone could could maintain that, that's
I do, man. I still, it's like, guitar is just continuing to evolve guitar, the instrument itself, as well as the playing. It's like it would take many lifetimes to master the instrument, if that's even a thing. And for some people, the concept of not ever knowing everything is scary to them, but it's knowing everything is scary to me. You know what I mean? Because then what do you got to look forward to? You already know everything. It's there's always something new you can learn. There's always something new you can pick up from somebody. You can learn anything from anyone of any level. There's always information out there. It's just great. And
good.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's really interesting you mentioned that as well, about the evolution of music and technology in guitar. You were recently on, or how recent I'm not sure, a Rings of Saturn track as well, weren't you? And obviously they have some incredibly, insanely technical music, obviously aided by actual technology and whatever digital tricks they have as well. And Lucas Mann and such as well with his ethereal guitar. That's an interesting piece of equipment as well. Did you find working with those guys quite fun, or was it like a challenge for you, or just something different?
Well, believe it or not, I don't enjoy playing fast all the time, despite what people say. Despite what little lick you see me teaching at one moment, that's not what I do all the time.
No, of course not.
So with that track, the challenging part was you can't breathe on it. You have to just anytime I tried to come up for air and like play a phrase or bend, do anything other than just 16th triplets and sweeping and stuff, it just didn't work. It didn't sound right. So I had no choice other than shred. And matter of fact, I was so apprehensive about the solo. I told Lucas, I was like, dude, if you guys want to send me the money back and just not even worry about it. Here's what I did. I just felt I was unsure of it. I didn't feel very confident about what I did on it. Because it forced me so much into that hole. And I didn't really want to be there. So he's like, no, man, call me back the next day. Everybody loves it, dude. And I said, all right, well, do me a favor. Just on that one note, put a lot of delay. And it was cool. And they all loved it. And usually when somebody calls me to do a solo, that's usually what they want.
Yeah.
Whether that's what I want to do or not.
Still pretty cool to hear you be so humble about it as well, though. Like to say that you didn't feel too comfortable doing it, but you did what you wanted to do that you felt was right for the track.
Plus,
yeah, absolutely. There was another one I played on a band called Illustrium, and they paid me to do this solo, and it was down to the wire, and they needed it done. I didn't have a chance to do it. I'm like, dude, I just send you the money back. Said the same thing. He goes, dude, just go in the studio and just do whatever you want. And at the time, my singer was living about an hour and a half away, and he had a recording studio. And I drove up there. I plugged in, it did one take, and said, let me try something else. And I did another take, and we were done. And it just came out like that. And I think it's one of my coolest solos. It was real free flowing. Had a lot of bends, vibrato, whammy bar stuff, and it was cool. But it was just one of those things where it was just in the zone. It took me longer to set up than it did to record. I'm up there. We literally set up, plugged in, did one pass, and it would have been good enough for that one pass. But I just wanted to try something different in the beginning, and we did another one, and it was it. That's like the Left to Follow solo on the First Day of Reckoning EP. That was like first take, just went in,
just right.
Yeah,
cool.
And then sometimes you get in there and it's like, dude, it's like pulling teeth, man. When I did the one with George Callias and Galaxy, I went in the studio and I went home that night with nothing. I was like, man, just forget it. I'm going home, and left and went home and worked on the track and came back the next night. And I had so much stuff for it. They ended up making a bonus version of the song as an instrumental. So it was really a vocal tune. I just said, I'm going to play over the whole thing. And I went back and I did harmonies, and I did layered guitar parts with bends and dive bombs and swells and two solos on it. And there was stuff I still wanted to do, but I just ran out of time. I left the studio like 5 in the morning.
That's awesome.
Called George, and I called him on Skype because he's in Greece, and It's like, dude, I finished it, man, and my fingers were all like charred, and I got pictures of him, this gnarly man. But I stayed in there all night. I mean, it's like 5 in the morning, went in about 11, and just hashed it out. Dude, it was cool, man. But sometimes you need that big kick in the ass, because it's not always going to be the situation where you just walk in and plug in and it's going to be gold,
Yeah.
But
sometimes you just pull up nothing. Yeah.
The anecdote I'm going to take from this for all time now is when talking about Rings of Saturn. Usually, when people talk about having to play for the song, what they mean is, don't play so many notes, man. Play the right thing for the song. But when it comes to Rings of Saturn, the only option is just as many notes as humanly possible. Yeah. Here's where I throw a bit of shade, though. It must be stressful playing on a gig where you have to do everything the legit way.
Yeah.
I'll move on from that shade. So, I prepared you with a couple of things that we had planned to talk about today, and one of them leads on nicely from the teaching thing, because you will have seen obviously so many changes in the learning of guitar and the way that kids, or the reason that kids pick up guitar nowadays. Essentially, what I'm getting at is rhythm games. Mm-hmm. Your Guitar Heroes, your rock bands, and now your rocksmiths. So what are your thoughts on those types of things? I think I know the answer, but
my thoughts on those are that people get those games and they usually have experience playing video games, and then they think they can play real guitar. And then when they actually have to work at it, which they do the same thing when they play video games. They have to work at being good at that video game.
Absolutely.
But for some reason, they have more patience with being good at a video game. Maybe it's because you can look up cheat codes. I don't know. There's no cheat codes for guitar. You actually got to put in the work. Yep. But that's it. There's no instant gratification with guitar. When you really pick it up after being great at guitar. I remember, dude, funny story, Ollie Herbert from All That Remains, he used to make, kids would line up outside their tour bus to play Ollie on Guitar Hero. And they'd come off the bus crying he beat him so bad. But, it's just not, that's it, that it's a game is a game. And even the ones that you actually really play an instrument on, it's still not, there is something like that, right?
That's Rocksmith.
Yeah, Rocksmith.
So,
but I don't know, man. It's
so the reason I thought this was an interesting subject is because I've had a long think about this, because being really into the education side of things, I know many of my friends and peers and educator-y type people, or even enemies, are very quick to bash on those things. But actually, I can see some objective benefits, and that's the fact that I described them as rhythm games. I think that if you get a kid and you sit them on Rock Band drums, at the very least, you're kind of instilling that sense of what the pulse of music is. And some people really need to learn that. Like the most terrifying experience of my life was my wedding. Just because, getting married. No. Trying to help my father-in-law deal with the father-daddy-daughter dance, because he has no concept of what pulses in music. So I literally had to stand within earshot of him and out loud count 1, 2, 3, 4, because just no concept. So in that respect, I can see rhythm games as helping kids, and also with the computer game aspect, it also introduces that element of competition, high scores, in beating your last score. But the issue comes with, as you mentioned, Rock Band, where you get to plug in a real guitar. At that point, I'm like, why? Why are you doing this? Yeah. Go get yourself a guitar teacher. Get some tabs. Go hit up Chops from Hell, or one of the many resources. Why are you learning to read some sort of bastardized notation off a screen when you can just learn some tabs, plug into a loud amp, and I was going to say have all the girls love you for it, but I think those years they're way gone. So go on.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, is it something that you have you ever found yourself in a position where you've needed to try and explain to someone, a young person, why something like Rocksmith might not be the best use of your time?
Well, my kids, so we start there, but yeah, I mean, for sure, because it's like, I practiced Iron Man on Guitar Hero all week, but can you play a power chord? He can't play, the stuff I'm teaching him because he spent all his time practicing Guitar Hero and something like that. But on the flip of that, I have a comment on what you said previously to that, about the benefits of it. I mean, that sheds a new perspective on it that I hadn't really thought about before. So that's a very good point. You know what I mean? I never thought about it that way. And if anything is helping somebody that's new to music or young, just understand pulse and beat and time and tempo and how to count. I mean, that's important stuff. You know what I mean? My son played the drums for a long time, and he was the first person that ever made me believe that there was such thing as a natural. Because I would take him to Outworld rehearsals during the summer, and he didn't have a drum kit yet. And he would get up on the drums after we'd rehearse. And finally, one night, we were all in the kitchen at my keyboard player's house, and we hear somebody out there playing. And we were like, who's out there? And it was Sebastian, my son. And I was like, okay, I get it. He really wants to play. But he got his drums, and I mean, he could just pick it up and he would go, and he might not play the drums for months because he was grounded for something he did in school or something like that. As soon as he got drums back, he wouldn't have not missed a beat. I mean, the kid, he didn't have to practice. I mean, I guess that would be something that would attribute to somebody being called a natural, because, you know, to me, there's no such thing as a natural. There's a natural practicer. Somebody has a natural desire to play and passion. You know what I mean? But that you still have to put in the time.
Yeah, but I think it's less of a labour and more of a an enjoyment. You do it because you really want to, rather than you have to practice it and study.
Right. Yeah. That's the big difference in a lot of students, you know. I mean, people that are genuinely do well at it are people that don't look at practicing as a bad thing. You know, I mean, there were many times where I'd much rather been sitting home practicing than actually playing. You know, because of what I'm getting out of the practicing was so much more exciting than just going through and actually not songs and stuff. Not that
going through the motions.
It's just the thrill of getting new things and gaining new ground was very exciting. But backing up with my son, he got in a position where he couldn't play drums anymore because he was, you know, out doing stupid shit he shouldn't be doing, and he started getting into this DJ dubstep stuff. And I'm like, well, son, that's not an instrument. I said, you're not a musician anymore. That's not an instrument. He's like, yeah, but I got to count and drop in beats. I said, that, you know, anybody can do that. You're not playing an instrument. Sorry, that's not an instrument. You know, and he just hated that, but I did it on purpose.
You know? It's a weird one, because like I totally agree with you, but at the same time, I also find that anytime I've heard like this dubstep type thing, which again is a totally new thing to me, I don't understand it, but I hear it and I can go, cool, that's like that. Yeah, there's some interesting rhythms going on here and things like that. I do have to hold my hands up and say right now, if you said to me, Levi, right, I want to do like a track with you. I want it to have like a dubstep vibe to it. Just lay down a track for me, and then we'll come up with some melodies. I would have no idea how to go about getting all those sounds that they do. I've got all the gear here to do it, but no idea. No.
Yeah, no, it's, from what I understand, it's not easy. Some of the technical stuff they do in dubstep, there's actually some challenging. I don't know what terminology to use, but it's takes some skills.
Yeah.
But it's not like the other stuff where you're just going scratching a record or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I like that. So yeah, any thoughts on that, Mike, on the Rock Band Guitar Hero thing?
I think another positive that might have been overlooked is the kind of gratification you get from it as well. If you're building someone's confidence, even just as you're saying, where they're learning pulse, time, tempo, rhythm, an understanding of even basic melody, then there's still something from it. But I don't see Rocksmith as ever replacing a guitar teacher, but it might be the stepping stone for someone to go to a guitar teacher and to discover a bit of passion. So that may be a bit different. Saying that, you need to buy the game and the guitar and the interface and the console. So it's quite a lot about. So
if it leads to the next Yngwie or Randy or Eddie, that's cool with me, man. Start right. You know what I mean? That's I read an interview with Dime where he was doing a clinic somewhere, and some kid came up for an autograph, and Dime asked him something about a guitar, and he goes, "Yeah, I don't have a guitar yet, but I want to play really bad." And Dime had him and his dad stay and wait till after the clinic was over, and Dime actually bought him a guitar, and he goes, "Man, you never know, that kid could be the next Eddie Van Halen, man." You know, so that was really cool. You know, just
I've heard so many cool stories about Dime, and just in that general hospitable manner, just looking after people and just having that constant want for people to do well and things to be nice and everybody to be happy.
I have to say though, that as lovely as that story was, real heartwarming. I like that story. It was the biggest anticlimax for me because when you finished, I was expecting you to go, and do you know who that kid turned out to be? That was me, man.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't know. We don't know that yet.
That is true.
Maybe he's out there right now somewhere, and we just don't know it yet. And we're gonna hear some, hey, yeah, man, Dime bought me this guitar one night. And it was my first guitar, and then we'll know how the story ended.
or maybe he hocked the guitar for a speedball when he
maybe
was.
His dad took it from him and he never even got it.
Got Dimebag to sign it, went straight on eBay. Yeah, that's how those things
exactly. Right.
Paid for the extension in the house.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, all right, let's move into the last section. So, we've also been doing an album club because I think listening to new music, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone is really, really important. It's how you push your musical boundaries, and trying to get our listeners to listen to new music is also good. Like I'm as far as metal goes, thrash. I grew up on the thrash thing, but Mike's touring the world doing the extreme tech death metal. Slam. What the hell is slam? It means nothing to me. I know I still don't.
Is that where they're actually picking up random people in the crowd and throwing them now?
Does that happen?
Not yet. Mostly.
That's actually a thing now.
I'm going to get the hat. Keep going.
Yeah, my singer was telling me and showed me a video when we were actually out on tour. He was saying this is kind of a new thing that these guys were out to show somebody was a video and somebody in the crowd was trying to mosh and he just got bored and he just randomly picked up some guy and threw him.
Oh, is this like the crowd killing style thing?
What is that?
Potentially the crowd killing that seems to happen in the hardcore scene. Yeah, that doesn't really happen at any of the shows I play at, to be honest, because most of the time people are too busy walking around pretending they're dinosaurs or waving pretend hammers. Right. So.
Yeah. And because it's party can and there's balloons and stuff.
Yeah.
So point is we're really into trying to get our listeners to listen to new music, albums that we love, and what we were hoping you would do is you would bring forth an album for us to listen to, and next week we're going to come back and talk about what we thought about it, what we liked, what we hated, and hope that our audience will do the same. So sell us an album. Okay, so when you first mentioned this to me, the first thing I thought was, I got to think of a shred guitar player that I was really into or inspired by. And I went, no, this is going to be something different. And one of my biggest influences and favorite musicians of all time is Mark O'Connor. And he's a fiddle player from Tennessee, and he's got an album called Midnight on the Water. Oh, okay, it's not the album I was expecting you to say. Carry on.
Well, you think it's the Nashville Cats?
No, actually, I one of my students just sent me Markology. He's the one that he's playing guitar on when he was 16 or whatever, which is also ridiculous. But sorry, carry on. Yeah, Mark O'Connor.
Yeah, no, he's got an album called Midnight on the Water, and half of the album is his own style of caprices, like Paganini's 24 Caprices, but he's got his own caprices on there. He's got some improvisational piece, and he does play acoustic on some stuff. And then he's got some other kind of traditional folk heritage kind of stuff, which I'm not as into that as I am the caprice kind of stuff. But I mean, when I heard that, it just blew my mind because it's to me, it's like a modern day Paganini. And there is a little bit of that fiddle in there, not violin, but it's very, very caprice oriented, and it doesn't sound like his other stuff. You can hear the classical influence in there big time, and they're super cool. And there's one track on there towards the end of the album, I forgot the title of it, you'll know it when you hear it, but it's this improv piece, and it doesn't even sound like a violin. It almost sounds like he's a guitar getting this weird feedback and stuff. The guy's just super virtuoso. He's got his own technique books, like the Suzuki method. They got the O'Connor method or something like that now, and just a modern day virtuoso in that genre. And to me personally, I'd much rather play like that than another guitar player any day. I mean, those are the dudes like Mark O'Connor, or really the old dudes, Paganini, Chopin, Liszt, Alcon, all those guys. That's who I'd much rather play like. You know what I mean? Those dudes play at such a level, it's just mind blowing. I mean, I've spent time scouring the internet over the last couple of years trying to find, by some luck or act of God, let me find a practice schedule for Paganini. Chopin. What were I want to know what those guys practiced, because that's what I want to practice. You know what I mean? What did John Coltrane practice? Stuff like that. That's where I want to go, man. But that's getting back to that album. That's what it does for me. You know what I mean? It's a great album. It's very inspiring. And for guitar players, all the guitar players out there, because that's probably the only people listening to the show. If you only listen to guitar players, or you only listen to guitar players of the genre that you're playing, that's exactly what you're going to sound like. You're just going to regurgitate the same old thing. You've got to listen to other things outside of your comfort zone, like you're saying. When you, the more sources that you can draw from and channel from, the better that you're going to be able to put that back out into something new and unique. You know, it doesn't matter what genre you're playing. If you listen to all this other stuff, it's going to channel into what you do, and you're going to in turn put it back out, and it's going to come out different. It's not going to sound like just another metal band or just another rock band or just another country band or whatever. You know what I mean? Because you're going to be channeling all those influences, and it's going to make you play differently. Maybe it'll make you play at a higher level of virtuosity. Maybe it'll make your vibrato better. You know, I spent some time over the last year or so listening to singers just for their vibrato. And Itzhak Perlman's got his own YouTube channel, and he's got some where he gets on there and talks about vibrato and things like that, and listen to how a violinist approaches vibrato and a singer approaches vibrato. So it's not always about the technique, but I mean, that is a technique. And it just, to many degrees, vibrato and bending is one of the hardest things for me to teach somebody to do. You know, teaching somebody the mechanics of bending.
Yep.
It's not like just playing 3 notes or 2 notes per string or a power chord or a bar chord. It's a hand thing, which is so different than a finger thing. You know what I mean? Just the mechanics of bending. No, don't move your fingers, lock them, push the string, you know, or pull this, you know what I mean? It's
I think it goes even deeper than that. I think it goes to an expression thing. It's an emotional thing sometimes.
Sure.
It's all about you expressing the notes in the right way rather than it just, as you say, just a mechanic.
Right. Absolutely. That's why I was listening to singers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Because I mean, I don't know if this is a fact or not, but I would assume that vibrato originated from a vocalist. Historically speaking, I don't know, but
I'd say you're definitely right. Again, I don't have any. I say definitely. You know, I don't have any sources to back that up. But yeah, no, sure. Why not? Why not? That makes sense because we do it to try and make our voices carry in big rooms. So.
Right. And I'm sure we had vocalists before we had instruments, or at least no Gregorian chants. I don't know if there's a vibrato in that shit. I don't know. It sounds like
yeah. No, I'm really grateful for that recommendation actually because I like Mark O'Connor's playing. I was introduced to him via the new Nashville Cats, which was the other record that you mentioned.
I've never heard him, and I'm excited to hear him.
He's a great fiddle player, but when he was really young, he played guitar as well. And his first album he put out, he played guitar on, and he's just an absolute freak. So it's just an absolute monster.
He won all these like fiddle competitions. He was like a child prodigy.
Yeah.
He won all the fiddle competitions everywhere. He grew up in the Appalachian Mountains out in like hill country in Tennessee or something like that. And it was just you know. American folk music and fiddle playing. You know what I mean? It's like, what's a fiddle? I don't know. It's a violin. No, it's not. But it is, you know. He plays the fiddle. No, I don't play fiddle. I play violin. Well, quit fiddling around. But I mean, it's really the same instrument, but it's, I guess, stylistically, if you play the fiddle, you're playing bluegrass and folk music and country and swing, and whereas if you're a violin, it's classical or jazz and something like that.
Yeah.
You know? But
awesome.
It's funny that they actually classify it call it a different name.
Yeah, no, totally. Like, there's no avoiding that. It's the same thing, but you can't. You just never.
Can't play fiddle on violin.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Well, I guess we'll close that up there. So a massive thank you, Rusty, for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks again.
Where can we send people to check out more of your stuff?
Just the easiest place to find everything that's going on is just my website, rustycooley.com. And then from there, you can find YouTube and Facebook and all the other things. There's links right on the homepage, and it'll take you to my band as well, Day of Reckoning. And, that leads you to all things Rusty.
Where do you find yourself most active these days? Are you a Facebook guy, an Instagram guy, a Twitter guy, a Snapchat guy?
No, I've actually got personal management now, and they're kind of handling a lot of that for me.
Okay.
Now I'm in a position finally where I, got some help, and they're letting them do it. So it's mainly Instagram, but everything's followed up with Facebook. Because from what I hear, Facebook's on the way out. Which
I hear that too. That worries me.
Yeah, natural reach is gone.
All the kids love Instagram, and I don't get it yet. But
I don't either. You know what I mean? That was part of the reason I got personal management, because there was this downtime that I had between Outworld and Day of Reckoning and doing something with Day of Reckoning. And after all the stuff I did with my solo album and Outworld, I was just kind of burnt on the whole social media thing. And then in that short time that I was out, kind of, it all changed. And I was like, what, hashtag what? That looks like a shark, you know, thing. So it's like, what am I tagging? What am I doing? And I don't know.
Yep.
So I was like, man, somebody's got to help me jump to start this thing again, man.
And it's constantly changing. So yeah, I like the idea of having someone run that stuff because I spend way too much of my day, you know, keeping up with the current trends.
Yeah. Pretending is working.
But some of the fun that's taken out of it is I just like to sometimes get on post random shit, and I can't do that now. I got like, you guys want to post something on this? You know, maybe, you know.
But that's good because it stops you from turning into Jeff Berlin. So that's another deep cut for any one of our listeners that is aware of Jeff. Who is great, but is also should have someone managing his social media for him. Anyway, man, we will. We're gonna say goodbye now, but thanks very much for your time.
Yeah.
So
you bet. One last thing,
go on.
Quick. Wait. Sorry, one last thing. Next week, John Petrucci Guitar Universe.
Yes.
Be there all week.
Literally in my notes. Like the reason I talked about that video with you that we won't make mention of now, the reason for that was to talk about the damn John Petrucci Guitar Universe.
Gotcha.
It's probably way too late in the day for people to get tickets to that. I imagine that sold out almost
it's actually
immediately.
sold out.
Yeah. It's got Aldi Meola's on it, isn't he? Aldi Meola is on it as well, isn't he?
Yeah, man. Yeah. That's the cool thing for me because last year I get to meet one of my guitar heroes, Tony McAlpine, you know, and then Tony came through Houston a couple months later, and I got to get up on stage and jam a song with him. And this year, Demiola is going to be there, and I mean, Demiola is like the godfather of alternate picking, you know, and instrumental stuff, and she's really jazz fusion.
Yeah,
you know I mean, he started a whole, kind of a jazz thing with a Les Paul and a Marshall stack. That was so cool, man. Yeah. You know, so to get to hang out and meet him and watch him perform and teach and stuff like that, because when I'm not teaching, I'm going to be in other teachers' classes. I'm going to be teaching and learning.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Such a melting pot. There's so many different guitarists there as well. Like you've got the modern guys like Jason Richardson. Obviously yourself has been through the full time, and you've got Aldi Meola from way back in the beginning, so it's just going to be outrageous.
Yeah, that's crazy. I never really thought about it that way, but you're right. You know, from Demiola all the way up to guys like Jason Richardson and Tosin, and that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So just to rub it in to all the people that don't have tickets,
like us.
But I'm sure there'll be clips of it. People will post some clips.
Hang out, watch the social media. I'm going to make it a point to get some more stuff. Last year when I was there, I wasn't feeling the best, so I didn't really do much when I wasn't teaching. But this year, I'm going to be hanging out, taking pictures, and getting video. And I'm going to make sure that somebody gets some video of me playing, because I don't think there's any video of me playing at all last year, except for an interview that I did with somebody that was there. I talk and play a little bit of a lesson from it, but aside from that, I don't think there's any footage of my performance or playing with Petrucci and any of that stuff, which is a bummer. You'd think, the place sold out in full last year, that somebody would have been videotaping it. It'd be on YouTube somewhere, but it's not.
In this day and age, how did that not happen? I know.
Right. Gets too many guitar geeks there.
Yeah. Too busy enjoying themselves.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, is it?
No. It's actually kind of refreshing to see somebody actually watching you with their own eyes and not through their camera.
Yeah. It's really hard to pick up your phone when your jaw's on the floor.
It's like, hey, he's right there. You don't have to look through your phone.
Yeah. Take it in. You're not going to enjoy it watching on your tiny 5-inch screen. Just take it in real life.
It's recorded on the world's tiniest microphone.
Yeah, you're right. It's going to just sound amazing later.
Can't wait to show all my friends this. They'll love watching this.
Yeah.
Kill me now.
Well, very cool.
Yeah, cool. So,
thanks once again.
Keep your eyes peeled for everything that's happening with Rusty. Thanks again for your time, Rusty. And maybe we'll catch up again in future. So
sounds great.
Let's cut back to the show, Mike. And we're back. That was really cool.
Great fun. Really nice guy.
Big fan.
Definitely. Very, very passionate.
Yeah,
you can tell.
I made this point on the podcast about the Jude Gold No Guitar is Safe podcast with Rusty. I'll make it again. Anyone out there, do go and check that out. It's Rusty comes across as just really nerdy and fascinated with technique and playing and teaching and stuff like that. We didn't make mention of his Swiss Picks relationship.
No, did not.
I do like the Swiss Picks. I have a couple. Tom Monder of Thank You Scientist gave me some at some point. Pete over at Swiss Picks makes some pretty cool picks. But we know what picks I play.
You shameless plugging bastard.
Oh, I mean, clearly not, because I didn't mention their name.
But we all know.
Yeah, good, and that's the point. You should all know. I should Everyone should know. I didn't mean to do that.
What was that?
I don't know. That was a ghost. Yeah. Anyway, so any closing messages for people, Mike?
As ever, like, subscribe, share if you haven't done so already. Tell your worst enemies about us and say it's fucking terrible. You don't want to listen to that. Obviously, get your friends involved. It's great. You'll love it. Just the usual. Any questions, anything you want to ask us, you get to cover, anything you're happy with, your thoughts on the album club, anything, just get in contact. We'd love to interact with as many people as we can and to make this a community. That's what we want.
Yeah. Sweet. I'm okay with that. So cool. Peace out, guys. Do all the usual subscribing, sharing, tell everybody, get us out there far and wide. But until next time,
bye, fuckers.